First Contact Marathon. The Galactic Athletics Championship had never seen anything quite like the humans before. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the starting line of the ultra-endurance event, surrounded by confused alien spectators and competitors who couldn't understand why the Terran delegation had entered what they considered the most grueling competition in the galaxy. "Are you certain you wish to proceed?" The Arxian official's translucent appendages flickered with concerned patterns. "No non-enhanced species has ever completed this course. The atmospheric conditions alone." Sarah smiled, adjusting her standard-issue climate suit. "I understand your concern, but we've reviewed the parameters. This is what humans do." The course stretched before her, a punishing 100-kilometer track across the surface of Nexus Prime, designed to test the limits of even the most advanced species in the Galactic Confederation. The Cytherians, with their cybernetic enhancements, had dominated this event for centuries. The Volrons, despite their impressive cardiovascular systems, had never managed more than half the distance. In the stands, Ambassador James Martinez watched with barely contained excitement. The other diplomatic delegations had tried to talk him out of entering humans in this event, warning that humiliation would damage Earth's standing in the galactic community. But he knew something they didn't: humans were born for this. The starting signal pulsed across the quantum field. Sarah began moving at what appeared to be an impossibly slow pace compared to her competitors. The Cytherians burst forward at incredible speeds, their cybernetic legs propelling them far ahead. The Volrons followed, their four-legged gallop eating up the distance. "Your representative appears to be walking," noted High Chancellor VRX, their crystalline form shimmering with what might have been amusement. "Just wait," Martinez replied, unable to suppress his grin. The first hour passed. Then the second. The Cytherians began to falter, their enhanced systems requiring cooldown periods. The Volrons slowed, their impressive initial speed proving unsustainable. But Sarah kept moving, maintaining the same steady pace she'd started with. By the fourth hour, the alien spectators had gone from dismissive to confused to fascinated. Sarah had passed most of the field, her steady rhythm never wavering. The evolutionary adaptations that had made humans the ultimate persistence hunters on Earth were now showing their worth on a galactic stage. "Impossible," whispered a Xylaxian observer, their sensor arrays struggling to process what they were seeing. "Her core temperature should be critical, but she's sweating." Sarah passed the 60-kilometer mark as the last Cytherian competitor shut down, their cybernetic systems overheated. The human's breathing was labored, but controlled. Her legs ached, but this was familiar territory. This was what countless generations of human evolution had prepared her for. In the Medical Observation Center, alien physiologists watched in amazement as their instruments tracked Sarah's vital signs. The efficient bipedal locomotion, the remarkable temperature regulation through perspiration, the cardiovascular endurance that seemed to defy their understanding of biology, it was all functioning exactly as it had for human hunters on the savannas of ancient Earth. As Sarah crossed the finish line, alone and upright, the stadium fell silent. She had not only completed the course but had done so without any technological assistance beyond basic environmental protection. The implications sent shockwaves through the gathered species. Ambassador Martinez stepped forward to help Sarah as she finally allowed herself to stop. She was exhausted but smiling. "How's that for humanity's introduction to galactic athletics?" "Perfect," Martinez replied, noting the furious discussions breaking out among the various diplomatic delegations. "Though I think you may have just changed a lot more than sporting records." In the following days, the galaxy began to truly understand what it meant to have humans join their community. This wasn't just about athletics, it was about a species that had evolved to never stop, to keep going long after others would have given up. A species that could chase their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, that could pursue their goals with unrelenting determination. The Galactic Athletics Championship had sought to find the most physically capable species in known space. Instead, they had discovered something far more significant: a race of persistent hunters who had learned to run before they learned to build spaceships, and who had never lost that fundamental ability to endure. As Sarah received her medal, the other species watched with new eyes. They had expected Earth to be just another world joining the galactic community. Now they wondered what other surprises these persistent primates might have in store for the galaxy. High Chancellor VRX turned to Ambassador Martinez, their crystalline form now pulsing with patterns that indicated deep thought. "Your people, they can all do this." Martinez nodded, "Given proper training, yes. It's built into who we are. We never learned to stop running." The implications hung in the air like a challenge. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not with superior technology or overwhelming force, but with the simple, terrifying ability to keep going. The galaxy would never be the same. The hunt begins. Admiral Viktor Petrov stood on the bridge of the TSS Persistence, studying the holographic display of the Arcturus sector. 6 months after humanity's shocking display at the Galactic Athletics Championship, their unique abilities had caught the attention of a less desirable audience, the Ravager pirate fleets. "Another merchant vessel taken," Lieutenant Wong reported, marking a new red dot on the map. "Third one this week. Same pattern, they hit hard, fast, then vanish into the asteroid fields." Where conventional pursuit fails, Victor mused, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic glow. "Show me the patrol patterns of current response forces." The display shifted, revealing the standard containment strategies employed by the Galactic Defense Force. Fast attack vessels would attempt to intercept the pirates, while heavy cruisers maintained a perimeter. It was textbook space warfare, and it was failing miserably. "They're thinking like sprinters," Victor said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Time to show them what happens when you run into a marathon runner." The new tactical approach was designated Operation Long Hunt. While other species relied on burst acceleration and overwhelming firepower, humanity would introduce a different approach, persistent pursuit warfare. The TSS Persistence and her sister ships were modified with enhanced life support and redundant systems. Their crews were selected from Earth's ultramarathon runners, mountain climbers, and other endurance athletes. They weren't the fastest ships in the fleet, but they could maintain steady pursuit for weeks without stopping. The first test came 3 days later. A Ravager fleet hit a Xylaxian transport near the Helios cluster. As usual, they expected to outrun any response force. Instead, they found themselves being followed by 3 human vessels that simply refused to give up the chase. "They're not even trying to catch us," the Ravager commander growled, watching the pursuit vessels maintain their distance. "What game are these humans playing?" Hour after hour, the human ships maintained their pursuit. When the Ravagers changed course, they followed. When the pirates tried to hide in radiation fields, the human ships tracked them. There was no burst of speed, no desperate attempt to close the distance, just the steady, unrelenting presence of ships that would not stop. In the crew quarters of the Persistence, officers rotated shifts in a carefully choreographed dance of endurance. While other species' crews would be exhausted by such a lengthy pursuit, humans had evolved to handle long-term stress and sleep deprivation. Day 5 of pursuit, Captain Sarah Chen, newly transferred from the Athletic Corps, logged in her report. "The Ravagers have attempted 16 course changes, 3 asteroid field dispersals, and 2 radiation cloud concealments. We maintain contact. They're starting to understand, they can't outrun us." The breaking point came on day 7. The Ravager fleet's fuel reserves were critical, their crews stressed beyond limits by the psychological pressure of being constantly pursued. When they finally turned to fight, they found themselves facing crews who were fresh, focused, and had been patiently waiting for this moment. The battle was brief and decisive. The Ravager ships, their resources depleted by the extended chase, were no match for the well-rested human crews. As the last pirate vessel surrendered, a new message began spreading through the criminal networks of the galaxy: "Beware the humans, they never stop coming." In the aftermath, Admiral Petrov presented his findings to the Galactic Defense Council. "We've adapted our most basic hunting strategy to space warfare," he explained to the assembled alien representatives. "Our ancestors didn't need to be the fastest, they just needed to be relentless. This is who we are, the species that keeps going." The implications sent ripples through galactic military doctrine. Humanity's approach to space warfare didn't rely on superior technology or overwhelming force. Instead, they had taken their most primitive hunting technique and applied it to the stars themselves. High Chancellor VRX, observing the presentation, turned to Ambassador Martinez. "First your athletics, now your warfare. Your species continues to surprise us with these primitive methods." Martinez watched as the tactical displays showed more human pursuit squadrons being deployed across troubled sectors. "Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones. We learn to run down our prey before we learn to make spears. Now we're running down pirates between the stars." The galaxy was learning a crucial lesson about humanity. They weren't just another spacefaring species with clever technology. They were persistence hunters who had taken their ancient skills to the stars. And in the vast darkness of space, their ability to simply keep going was proving to be one of the most terrifying weapons of all. As the Persistence prepared for its next patrol, Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck, watching the stars. Humanity had found its niche in the galactic community, not as the strongest or the fastest, but as the ones who would never stop pursuing their goals, no matter how long it took. The hunt had only just begun. Running through the stars. Dr. Maya Rodriguez never expected her background in ultramarathon running would become crucial to xenoarchaeology, yet here she stood on the surface of Proxima 7, preparing for another 16-hour survey trek. The ancient ruins sprawled across the planet's harsh surface had defeated every other research team's attempts at comprehensive exploration. "You realize the atmospheric processors can only maintain viable conditions for 4 hours at a time?" The Arxian researcher, Dr. Zix, waved his sensory appendages in concern. "No other research team has managed to maintain the necessary continuity of observation." Maya checked her environment suit systems one last time. "4 hours is just our warm-up time," she smiled, remembering her day's training in Earth's Death Valley. "Humans are built for this kind of work." The Human Endurance Corps, or HEC, had revolutionized countless fields across the galaxy. From deep space rescue operations to planetary surveys, humans' unique ability to keep going had opened doors previously thought sealed by biological limitations. On the emergency response vessel, Marathon, Captain Jack Thompson coordinated another rescue mission. A Volron mining facility had suffered a catastrophic failure, with survivors scattered across 20 kilometers of underground tunnels. The facility's toxic atmosphere meant rescuers could only operate in short shifts, unless they were human. Beginning sweep of Section 7, Jack reported, his boots echoing through the dark tunnels. Hour 6 of the search, and his team showed no signs of fatigue. "Remember folks, slow and steady. We've got people counting on us." The Volron facility manager watched the human rescue team's progress with increasing amazement. "They're still going. Our own emergency teams couldn't manage more than 40 minutes in those conditions." In orbit, Communications Officer Sarah Chen, now promoted after her success in the pirate hunting operations, monitored the team's progress. "Humans don't just endure," she explained to the facility manager. "We thrive on it. Every marathon runner knows, the real race doesn't begin until everyone else wants to quit." Across the galaxy, humanity's impact on research and rescue operations was becoming legendary. The Cytherian Science Academy had begun specifically requesting human partners for their deep space exploration missions. The Xylaxian Emergency Response Network was restructuring its protocols to incorporate human endurance techniques. On New Terra, the first human colonial world beyond Sol, Governor Martinez, formerly ambassador, hosted a delegation of alien officials. They watched in fascination as human colonists worked through the planet's 30-hour day without the need for artificial sleep cycles. "Your people simply Adjust? Asked a Volron representative, their 4 eyes blinking in sequence. We evolved on a planet that demanded flexibility, Martinez explained. Our ancestors had to adapt to every environment, every challenge. That adaptability never left us. Back on Proxima 7, Maya's team had made more progress in 1 month than all previous expeditions combined. The ruins were yielding their secrets to human persistence, one exhausting day at a time. The difference, Maya explained during a rare break, is that we understand something fundamental about endurance. It's not about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about being able to keep going when everything tells you to stop. The implications of human endurance capabilities were reshaping galactic society in unexpected ways. Trade routes were being recalculated to account for human-crewed vessels that needed fewer stops. Emergency protocols were being rewritten around the assumption of human responders' availability. In the Galactic Council, debates raged about the increasing influence of these persistent primates. Some species feared the implications of a race that simply refused to stop. Others saw opportunities in alliance with such determined partners. High Chancellor VRX, observing a human rescue team save a stranded Arxian research vessel after a 3-week pursuit through an asteroid field, made a notation in their personal log. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about humans is not that they can keep going, but that they choose to keep going for others. The galaxy was learning that human endurance wasn't just about physical capabilities. It was about a fundamental approach to existence, a refusal to accept limitations, a determination to push beyond perceived boundaries. As Maya's team uncovered another chamber in the ancient ruins, as Jack's rescuers found another group of survivors, as human ships and crews continued to redefine what was possible, the galaxy watched with growing understanding. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their numbers, but in their simple, unstoppable determination to keep moving forward. "We're just getting started," Maya transmitted back to her base camp, her voice steady despite 15 hours of continuous exploration. "After all, this is what humans do. We keep going until we find what we're looking for." The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if in acknowledgement of the species that refused to stop reaching for them. The long chase. The Mandarin Empire's declaration of war against the Galactic Confederation came without warning. Their first strike crippled multiple defense installations across 3 sectors. As Confederation forces scrambled to respond, the Mandarin War Fleet demonstrated why they were considered the galaxy's premier military power. Their ships were faster, their weapons more advanced, and their tactics flawless. Or so they thought. Admiral Sarah Chen, now commander of the Human Expeditionary Force, stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Defense Council. Her reputation from the athletics championship and subsequent military successes made the alien representatives lean forward in their seats. "The Mandarin believe they can win this war through superior technology in swift strikes," she said, her voice steady. "They haven't realized yet that they're not fighting a sprint. They're in a marathon." Operation Eternal Chase was unprecedented in galactic warfare. While the Confederation's conventional forces engaged the Mandarin in traditional battles, human-led squadrons began a different kind of campaign. One based on the oldest human hunting technique. The TSS Persistence, now flagship of the pursuit fleet, tracked Mandarin supply lines with relentless determination. They didn't try to win decisive battles. They simply followed, harried, and exhausted their targets. Day 15 of pursuit, Captain Jack Thompson logged aboard the Persistence. "The Mandarin commander has attempted 7 different evasive patterns. His crew must be approaching their operational limits. We're just hitting our stride." The Mandarin, accustomed to winning through superior technology and decisive engagements, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to fight on their terms. Human ships would appear at the edge of their sensors, maintaining a constant distance, never attacking directly but never going away. "They're like shadows," a Mandarin commander reported to his superiors. "We can't shake them. They don't sleep. They don't stop. They just keep coming." In her tactical command center, Admiral Chen watched the strategy unfold across multiple sectors. The Mandarin's advanced ships required complex maintenance cycles. Their crews needed specific rest periods. But the human ships just kept going, their crews rotating in carefully planned shifts, maintaining constant pressure. This is psychological warfare, Dr. Maya Rodriguez, now serving as a cultural advisor to the fleet, explained to their alien allies. Our ancestors would chase prey until it was too exhausted to continue. The knowledge that you're being followed, that you can't rest, that your pursuer will never stop, it breaks something in the prey's mind. The breaking point came 3 months into the war. A Mandarin battle group, exhausted from weeks of constant human pursuit, made a critical mistake. They attempted to force a confrontation, hoping to end the psychological torment of being endlessly followed. Instead, they found themselves facing fresh human crews who had been patiently waiting for exactly this moment. The battle was decisive, but not in the way the Mandarin had planned. As news of the defeat spread through Mandarin command, something unprecedented happened. Their war council, for the first time in their species' history, began to consider the possibility that superior technology wasn't enough. How do you defeat an enemy that never stops? A Mandarin strategist demanded during an emergency session. They're not fighting a war, they're hunting us down like animals. The galaxy watched in amazement as the mighty Mandarin Empire began to fracture under the psychological pressure of human persistence. Their supply lines were in chaos, their crews were exhausted, and the knowledge that human ships were always watching, always following, began to break their legendary discipline. In the end, it wasn't a grand battle that brought the Mandarin to the negotiating table. It was the simple, terrifying reality that they couldn't outlast an enemy that had evolved to never stop pursuing their prey. As the peace treaties were signed, High Chancellor VRX turned to Admiral Chen. Your species has rewritten the rules of warfare without firing a shot in many cases. You simply kept going. Chen smiled, remembering that first marathon that had introduced humanity to the galaxy. That's what humans do. We persist. Whether it's crossing a finish line or winning a war, we keep going until we reach our goal. The Mandarin representatives, signing the peace accords, couldn't help but glance nervously at the human delegation. They had learned what the rest of the galaxy was beginning to understand: humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their fundamental nature as persistence hunters who had taken their skills to the stars. We never wanted to be the galaxy's greatest warriors, Chen told the assembled delegates. We just wanted to keep exploring, keep pushing forward. But if you force us into a chase, remember, humans evolved to run down anything that runs from us. It's written in our DNA. The message was clear. Humanity had found its place in the galactic community not through overwhelming force, but through their unique ability to simply keep going when everyone else had to stop. The long chase was over, but its implications would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. Victory Lap. 5 years after the Mandarin War, the Galactic Confederation gathered for an unprecedented celebration. The Grand Symposium on Human Integration marked half a decade of transformation that had reshaped interstellar society. The venue was fitting. The same stadium where Captain Sarah Chen had first shocked the galaxy with humanity's endurance. Now Admiral Chen, her hair showing streaks of gray, stood before representatives from 1,000 worlds. Beside her, Dr. Maya Rodriguez, Captain Jack Thompson, and Ambassador Martinez formed a panel that represented humanity's impact across multiple fields. We didn't set out to change the galaxy, Chen began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. We simply brought who we are to the stars. We brought our persistence, our determination, and yes, our stubborn refusal to stop running. The changes were evident everywhere. The Galactic Defense Force had reorganized around human endurance doctrine, creating mixed species units that combined various strengths. The Cytherian cybernetic enhancement programs now incorporated principles learned from human biology, focusing on sustained performance rather than brief bursts of power. The most profound change, Dr. Rodriguez explained, wasn't in military tactics or exploration techniques. It was in helping the galaxy understand that sometimes the longest path is the surest one. In the years since the war, human persistence hunting techniques had been adapted for everything from diplomatic negotiations to trade disputes. The concept of marathon diplomacy, where human negotiators would simply continue talks until resolution was reached, had become legendary. The Mandarin representatives, once their bitter enemies, now sat in the front row. Their society had undergone its own revolution after the war, moving away from their obsession with technological superiority. They had learned the hard way that progress wasn't always about being the fastest or the most advanced. Humanity's gift to the galaxy, a Mandarin philosopher had written, was teaching us that the race belongs not to the swift, but to those who keep going. Captain Thompson, fresh from another successful deep space rescue mission, shared stories of how human endurance had transformed emergency response across known space. "We don't just save lives," he explained. "We've shown that sometimes victory comes not from being the strongest, but from being the last one standing." The statistics were staggering. Survival rates in deep space accidents had tripled. Previously, impossible exploration missions were being completed routinely. Trade routes once considered too demanding were now regular corridors, thanks to human-crewed vessels that could maintain consistent operation for extended periods. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed challenges. The human approach, steady, relentless progress rather than quick solutions, had begun to influence everything from education to infrastructure development. We've seen species that once relied entirely on technological solutions begin to explore their own biological potential, Ambassador Martinez noted. They're discovering what humans have known for millennia, that there's something powerful in simply refusing to stop. High Chancellor VRX, their crystalline form now showing the patterns of deep wisdom, addressed the assembly. "When humans first joined our community, we saw them as primitives who had somehow achieved space flight. Now we understand, their primitive abilities are actually the most sophisticated adaptation we've encountered." The ceremony concluded with an event that would have been unthinkable years earlier, an ultra-endurance race with mixed-species teams. Humans ran alongside aliens who had once dismissed them as inferior, each species contributing its unique strengths to the challenge. As Admiral Chen watched the runners pass, she reflected on humanity's journey among the stars. "We didn't conquer the galaxy," she mused. "We didn't overwhelm it with superior technology or force. We just kept running, kept pushing forward, kept going when others would have stopped. In the end, that was enough." The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest contribution wasn't a new technology or weapon. It was the simple, powerful message written in their DNA through millions of years of evolution: keep going, keep pushing, keep running toward your goals. As the sun set on the stadium, casting long shadows across the track where it had all begun, a young Mandarin cadet approached Admiral Chen. "Is it true," they asked, "that humans will still be running long after I've grown old?" Chen smiled, remembering that first marathon that had introduced humanity to the stars. "That's who we are," she said. "We're the species that doesn't stop. And now, thanks to all of you, we have whole new worlds to run across, new stars to reach for, new horizons to chase." The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed with it. But the fundamental truth remained: on Earth or among the stars, humans would keep running, keep pushing forward, keep persisting until they reached their goals. After all, that's what humans do. They run. They endure. They persist. And the galaxy is better for it.